Right now, somewhere in northwestern China, an invisible enemy is advancing at breakneck speed. Every single day, it consumes more farmland, swallows villages whole, and forces families to abandon everything they've built. This enemy doesn't have an army. It doesn't have a face. It's sand, and it's winning. But what if I told you that China just discovered a way to stop it? What if I told you that in 2024, they completed a barrier so massive, so ambitious, that it makes the Great Wall look like a garden fence? And what if I told you that this barrier isn't built from stone or concrete, it's alive? Over the next 10 minutes, you're going to discover how one nation is literally rewriting geography, defying the laws of nature, and preventing what could have been an environmental catastrophe that would have affected your own life, no matter where you live on this planet. In the heart of China's northwestern frontier lies the Taklamakan Desert. Its name means place of no return in the local language, and for good reason. This desert spans over 130,000 square miles. That's larger than the entire country of Germany. But size alone isn't what makes it terrifying. The dunes here aren't your typical sand formations. They tower over 300 feet into the sky, taller than a 30-story skyscraper. During summer, temperatures scorch the thermometer at 104 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to literally cook an egg on the ground. But here's where it gets genuinely frightening. 85% of this desert is made up of what scientists call active dunes, sand mountains that are constantly moving. These dunes don't sit still. They drift with the wind like ghostly figures, swallowing everything in their path. Roads disappear overnight. Entire villages vanish beneath the sand. Farmland that once fed thousands of people becomes nothing but a graveyard of abandoned fields. People who've driven through this desert report something chilling. They watch in real time as the sand slides across the highway in front of them, like an ocean made solid. The Taklamakan isn't just a desert, it's a predator, and it's been advancing deeper into inhabited territory at a rate of over 300 square miles every single year. This is where the crisis becomes clear. China isn't just dealing with one problem desert. There are 12 major deserts scattered across the country, collectively consuming nearly 20% of China's entire land. And here's the alarming part. Scientists predict that within a generation, deserts could cover up to 44% of the nation's territory. China is the world's second most populous country, with over 1.4 billion people. But while the nation's landmass spans over 3 million square miles, almost as vast as all of Europe, most of that territory is useless. It's arid, it's harsh, it's dead. The situation is so severe that even Beijing, the capital city, is suffocating. Every year, massive sandstorms barrel into the city, turning the sky orange and forcing residents to seal themselves indoors. The air quality becomes so toxic that children and the elderly must remain inside. Imagine not being able to step outside your home because the air itself has become a weapon. Take the Ningxia region in northwestern China. This area sits trapped between three massive deserts. For over 60 years, it has been losing the battle against desertification. By 2010, more than half, 57% of its entire landmass had already transformed into wasteland. The human toll is staggering. Families are forced to abandon homes they've known for generations. Children watch as the dunes bury their childhood memories. But what's particularly devastating is what desertification does to survival itself. In a town called Tonggunnawa, farmers describe something haunting. When they were children, they could dig down just 6 feet and strike water. The water table was accessible, abundant, and gave them hope. Today, those same farmers must dig 16 feet, nearly 3 times deeper just to find water. And the soil they're trying to farm is no longer fertile. It's hardened. It's depleted. They have to dump exponentially more fertilizer just to coax pathetic yields from the dying earth. People are literally watching their livelihoods evaporate in real time. So why is this happening? The answer is complex, but it boils down to 2 massive forces. First, climate change. Scientists have determined that approximately 20% of China's desertification crisis is directly caused by rising global temperatures. Deserts are already hostile environments prone to severe drought, but as global heat increases, the dryness intensifies exponentially. Rainfall across China has plummeted compared to just 50 years ago. The northeast and northwest regions have been hit the hardest. But here's the second force, and this one is entirely our fault. Between 1997 and 2008 alone, China's population exploded by nearly 100 million people. More people means more demand. More demand means more deforestation. More demand means stripping the land of every resource it needs to survive. Forests that held soil in place, clear-cut for farmland. Vegetation that stabilized the dunes, ripped out for development. Underground water reserves, drained faster than nature can replenish them. It's ecological strip mining on a national scale. The land is being murdered, and the result is accelerating desertification that feeds on itself like a parasite growing stronger. Here's what should terrify you. This isn't just China's problem. This is your problem. Degraded soil doesn't just disappear, it releases something catastrophic into the atmosphere. Soil is essentially a carbon storage facility. When it dies, when it turns to dust, all that carbon it was holding on to escapes into the air. Every hectare of degraded land becomes a source of greenhouse gas emissions. Multiply that across an area the size of Germany, and you're looking at millions of tons of carbon flooding our already choked atmosphere. The Taklamakan isn't just destroying China, it's accelerating global climate change. It's adding fuel to a fire that's burning us all. By 2019, China's government made a decision. They weren't going to accept defeat. They launched a project so audacious, so mechanically complex, that engineers questioned whether it was even possible. They decided to build a wall, not made of brick, not made of steel, made entirely of living plants. The concept is elegant in its desperation. If you plant enough trees, enough shrubs, enough vegetation around the perimeter of a desert, you create a barrier that the wind cannot penetrate. The plants lock sand in place. They absorb what moisture is available. They prevent the dunes from marching further. The engineers called it the Green Wall, and they focused its entire length around the Taklamakan Desert. The project would eventually stretch nearly 2,000 kilometers around the wasteland's perimeter. But here's where engineering meets madness. How do you grow plants in one of Earth's most hostile environments? The Taklamakan receives virtually no rainfall. Dunes reach 100-story building heights. Temperatures fluctuate wildly. The soil is essentially dead sand with no nutrients whatsoever. The engineers didn't have years to solve this. They had to innovate under extreme pressure. What happened next is genuinely staggering. Just to complete the first 1,700 meters of the Green Wall in the Taklamakan alone, the project required 40 years of continuous work. The government had to deploy 600,000 people, yes, you read that correctly, 600,000 individuals to hand plant desert-adapted species. They planted desert poplar trees that have roots extending over 30 meters deep to find water. They planted red willows engineered to survive in sand. They planted Saxaul trees that thrive in some of Earth's most inhospitable conditions. Each plant became a soldier in an army fighting back against extinction. But the genius didn't stop there. The project identified a plant called the desert hyacinth, known locally as the ginseng of the desert. This plant doesn't just survive in arid conditions, it flourishes, and it has economic value. It's traditionally used in Chinese cuisine and medicine. Suddenly, the barrier became more than environmental protection. It became an economic engine that could support local communities. Even more cleverly, the government installed solar power stations throughout the Green Wall project. These aren't just generating clean electricity. The physical presence of the solar panels disrupts wind patterns enough to actually prevent sand dunes from advancing. A single project addressing 3 crises simultaneously: desertification, climate change, and energy production. In November 2024, after decades of backbreaking work and nearly incomprehensible coordination, China completed the Green Wall. The results are undeniable. In the previous decade, deserts covered 27.2% of China's territory. Today, that number has dropped to 26.8%. Now, you might think, wait, that's only a 0.4% decrease, that's not impressive. But you'd be wrong. That 0.4% reduction represents millions of square kilometers of land that are no longer being consumed. It means villages that were scheduled to be buried are now going to be saved. It means farmland that was dying is getting a second chance. It means families that were preparing to flee can now consider staying. The sand isn't disappearing, it's being held in place. The dunes that were marching across China's landscape like an invading army have been stopped dead. For the first time in over a century, China is pushing back. For the first time, the desert is losing ground instead of gaining it. But the war isn't over, it's only just beginning. Scientists estimate that maintaining the green wall will require continuous replanting, constant irrigation innovation, and endless vigilance. Climate change will continue heating the planet, making deserts even more aggressive. Population growth will continue putting pressure on marginal lands. What China has accomplished is nothing short of miraculous, but it's also just the opening move in what will be a multi-generational battle. Yet, here's the revolutionary truth. Humanity isn't powerless in the face of environmental catastrophe. When a nation commits resources, innovation, and determination, we can reverse desertification. We can rewrite geography. We can defeat what seemed undefeatable. China's Green Wall proves that whether we're facing climate change, resource scarcity, or environmental collapse, we have the tools, the knowledge, and the capability to fight back. The question is, will we? If this story about one nation's war against extinction moved you, if it challenged how you think about environmental crisis and human capability, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to stay updated on the most transformative stories on the planet. And drop a comment telling me what's the boldest environmental project you think humanity should attempt next, because stories like this one deserve to be shared. They remind us that the future isn't written yet.